Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending at what time of the day you are watching this episode of Data-Driven Formula One. My name is Patrick Henz, and I have the pleasure to welcome you. Nominee Ganna Pogrevna and I. We're doing this jointly, but sometimes I also have some of these solo episodes, as I call them. And today it's again one of the last. What you see here now on the screen is the save symbol. Maybe you still remember what it shows you. I mean, it's quite abstract now, for example, implemented in the Microsoft Office applications, Outlook, whatever. But originally, this should show a floppy disk, which we had first the 5-inch and then the 3-inch versions. I still remember using them. For example, we had them on the 16-bit computers like the Amiga, Atari ST. Before this, we had the 5-inch versions, for example, with the Commodore C64 and other business and home computers. But if you are, let's say, a generation Y and especially generation Z, you never may have seen a floppy disk outside a computer museum. And today's topic, and we're coming back to Formula One, is a little bit similar to this because we all know the name related to the Mini. As we all know, the Mini Cooper, but maybe a lot of us, we have no clue where Cooper came from, and much less we know that this Cooper has a Formula One legacy, including a quite successful one. So today we want to look back at the Cooper car company, and of course here the focus on Formula One, this as we are a Formula One podcast. So welcome to Data-Driven Formula One Cooper Car Company. It's a family business, or it had been a family business. Well, you become see this at the end. It is still a family business. It was founded by father and son. The father had been Charles N. Cooper, who jointly with his son founded in 1948 the Cooper Car Company, which produced a string of successful racing cars through the 1950s and 60s. While John, the son, provided the enthusiasm and vigor that drove the Cooper Company forward, it was Charles' shrewd business brain that provided the stability and profitability that laid the foundation for their sporting success. So quite clear defined roles, one business side, and one with the vision, with the passion, so to call it. Charles N. Cooper, born October 1893 in Paris, France, despite he was British, of course, and he died in October 1964 in Sweden, UK. The son, John Newton Cooper, was the co-founder of the Cooper Car Company. He was born in Surbiton, so the place where they lived, the place where later his father also died. He became an auto racing legend with his rear-engine chassis design that would eventually change the face of sport at its highest level, from Formula One to Indianapolis 500. And yes, it was thanks to Cooper, who had been at the forefront to push Formula One car manufacturers, as they showed that it has a benefit for race cars to have the engine behind the driver and not before the driver, as it was common before. John Cooper had been born on July 17th in 1923 in Surbiton, Surrey, and died December 24 on Christmas in the year 2000. Quite iconic date. As his father, as his son, his nationality had been British. Here you see John Cooper working on one of his race cars. We're speaking here about what we call a garage company, as a lot of the British racing teams started like a garage company, where also the owner and the owner's son, really had been working hands-on on the cars. Thanks to Cooper Bikes, which offered a lot of good photos for the press and media so that I can show you a lot of interesting material. And I will explain you later at this podcast what Cooper Bikes is, just for you to know. We are not sponsored by Cooper Bikes. Cooper Bikes, if you're listening, we are open for sponsoring, but we are not sponsored. But nevertheless, I want to show you a little bit where Cooper started and where Cooper is today. So, of course, we will also speak shortly about Michael Cooper and Cooper Bikes. A quote by Charles Cooper: "We certainly had no feeling that we were creating some scientific breakthrough. We put the engine at the rear because it was the practical thing to do. So it was not based on big philosophy, that they had some studies. I mean, you're speaking here about a very hands-on company. So people just thought, why would not put it in behind? Makes much sense to us, easier for us, and that's how it started." Another great image provided by Cooper Bike. So here you see one of the 1960s Coopers engine behind, not their own engine, as they used mostly Climax and others, which supported the rise, but also unfortunately led to the fall of Cooper cars. But interesting to see how the car looks from the inside. The first rear engine car in Formula One had not been a Formula One car itself. It was a car, the Cooper T12, a car designed for Formula 2 specification. But as there had not been that many Formula One cars in the 1915 season, the field had been filled up with cars complying with Formula 2. So here you could participate, but of course you not had been able to compete for points and victories. So we already had this rear engine car in the 1915 season thanks to Cooper. Nevertheless, they already had the rear engine. As I said, it wasn't really that this was part of a bigger strategy, bigger philosophy. They still produced cars with the engine in front, even after this first rear engine car. So here we have the 1952 Cooper T20. Clearly, to see the engine had been again in front of the driver. Also in the next year, this still had been the case. Here you see the Cooper T23. As it's a British car, here they had a traditional livery, meaning dark green, English racing green. And to distinguish the Cooper from other British manufacturers, British racing teams, they had a yellow stripe. Cooper T24 from the year 1953. This in dark red. Important Cooper cars not only had been used by the works team, but mostly they sold Coopers to the various bigger and smaller racing teams, which became successful using these cars. This is the reason why not all Coopers had been in dark green. And even if it was still the British racing green, it was not obligatory, not mandatory in Formula One to paint the cars based to your country. And speaking about seeing, if you are just here with the audio podcast, the original podcast is what we call an audio enhanced podcast, meaning we show you photos, images, drawings, data to underline a little bit what we're explaining you. So if you want to get the full experience, please follow us on YouTube, YouTube Music, and Spotify. Of course, if you're driving yourself, please have your eyes on the road and use the audio-only version. So anyway, this is the Cooper T24. Also next year, engine still in front. We are speaking about 1955 and the Cooper Bristol T40, as you see here, as successful at the British Grand Prix in entry, still before Brands Hatch and before Silverstone became the standard race tracks for the Grand Prix. Also, consider we had a lot of official Grand Prix and also a higher number of non-official Formula One races organized under Formula One regulations, but not part of the official championship agenda. 1956, and the engine stays in front, like with this Cooper T41, a car under Formula 2 regulations. Next year, and now you see the engine is behind. This is the 1957 Cooper T43, a car also done under Formula 2 regulations. Then 1958 Cooper T45. This looks dark blue with white stripe. This is the British colors, white stripe. So this should be a car used by the Rob Walker racing team. Same here, Rob Walker Racing, livery, dark blue, white stripe. This is the Cooper T51 from the year 1959. We stay with the colors. This is the 1960 Cooper T53, and slowly we see the car becoming more aerodynamically very beautiful classic 1960s design, independent if the car was successful or not. From an aesthetic point, I think we can all agree this is a very beautiful design. This is the Cooper T54, has been used in 1961 and 63. This is a car not made for Formula One. You see it's a little bit different. It's created for the Indianapolis 500 race, where Cooper tried to establish itself. As you grow with the business, and Cooper was not a company selling streetcars, they looked for other business models, and participating in the United States, of course, would have been an additional market. So they tried to establish themselves there with the Cooper T54, as seen today, a little bit more created for long straights and very, very fast curves. Now back to Formula One, and this is the Cooper T60 from 1962. 1963, here next version, Cooper T66. Here we have an open engine, which has advantages, related weight, and of course cooling, even though may have some disadvantages related aerodynamics. Also, slowly you see here, we are in the 60s, so we get slowly also advertising on the cars, like for example here, Dunlop. Next year, Cooper T73, again with a closed engine. 1966 Cooper T81 in red and white, so it must be some of the smaller teams. Could be a Swiss or French one. French one, sorry, Italian one. 1967 Cooper T86 here in the race. And so far to the photos, which I can show you. It's always, of course, there are a lot of more photos if you search the internet, but we only want to show you here ethical sourced images, meaning show you photos where we really have the rights to show you here in this podcast. A little bit the statistics here, International Cup for F1 manufacturers. We see the first year, Cooper already became the third. Before this, by the way, we didn't had manufacturers championships, so we only had the drivers championships. Then 1959, we had Cooper Climax. Climax is the engine, also a small British company. Here, the title for Cooper together with Climax. Also, we had Cooper using a Maserati engine. Cooper sold the cars to the various teams, and they had been free to decide what kind of engine they want to put behind. I mean, the best combination was clearly Cooper Climax, as you may say, Cooper created the cars with the Climax engine in mind, and Climax the engine with the Cooper car in mind. Of course, this should lead to the best combination, but also due to budget and other considerations, teams have been free also to use other engines, like, for example, the Maserati one. Also, in 1960, Cooper could repeat their success with the Climax, their works team, first position. Cooper Maserati still become fifth. Also, the Cooper car has been used by the Scuderia Castellotti, which that year had their own engine and could at least reach the sixth position. And there even had been a Cooper using a Ferrari engine, 0 points. And unfortunately, this story should had a tragical end, as there had been a fatal accident of their driver in testing. So this had been really the peak for Cooper as a team. After this, 1961, other teams caught up, only fourth position, same in the next year. 63, a little bit down, fifth position. Then next year, fifth position. Next year, fifth position, 66, slight upwards tendency. The third position for Cooper using the Maserati engine, 30 points. And also next year, quite successful. Cooper Maserati, third position, even better than the cars using the Cooper Climax engine, which only came in on the ninth position. And 1968, we had the Cooper BRM engine, 10th position. And last year for Cooper in Formula One, Cooper with the Maserati engine, but 0 points. So what led to the downturn of Cooper? And this is a topic we will explore a little bit more now going on. Speaking about some of the key events for Cooper, 1948, the company was founded. In 1950, they had the the Formula 2 car in the Formula One Championship, already with rear engine. After this, we had more the front engine cars. We had in 57 Jack Brabham sixth place in Monaco with the car. Then we had the next year victory for Sterling Moss in Argentina for the Rob Walker Racing team. So it was not the Cooper Vox team, but Rob Walker Racing, which had been a very successful private team. 1959 championship for Jack Brabham, then championship for Jack Brabham. 1960, ninth position at Indianapolis 500. 63, John Cooper's accident with Mini, which should lead later next year to his death. 65, sale of Cooper Formula One to Chipstead Motor Group, and also they moved the factory. And in 1969, in fact, already earlier, they struggled to find a sponsorship to buy the Cosworth engine. So let's go back to the graphic. So you see, well, I mean, 66, 67, the Maserati engine, which was a little bit aged, but still quite competitive. But for the next years, they hadn't been able to really get a competitive engine anymore, and this aligned a little bit because the father died, the business brain who had been the business brain of the company, and that's why they hadn't been able to get attractive sponsorship deals or other income streams to buy Cosworth engines, which at the end of 1960s, beginning of 1970s, had been the engine you would have to have as a private team to be successful, to be competitive. And as it wasn't possible, this started a downturn because you don't have the budget to buy good engines, good drivers, good mechanics, and so on. And with this, you have less success, and with less success, then you also have again less income as your team gets less attractive for sponsors. And so they had this downturn spiral, which unfortunately led to the fact that 1969 was the last year of Cooper in Formula One. Nevertheless, we have really to thank them, not only that they brought in, that they pushed Formula One technical development so that we see now the engine behind, but also they had a lot of iconic drivers, like, for example, Jack Brabham, Bruce McLaren. And this maybe had been another factor for the downturn, because we had this championship drivers, uh, highly talented people, but they left Cooper and also used their experience gained at Cooper to build up their own teams, which should later become very successful, as Brabham Formula One, and of course the McLaren Formula One team, again constructors champion today 2024. Other talented drivers driving for Cooper, not all for the Cooper Works teams, but also for the Cooper private teams. Marston Gregory, Sterling Moss, Maurice Trintignant, Hans Hermann, Tim Panell, Alejandro De Tomaso, founder of De Tomaso, Harry Schell, Carlos Mentigai, Wolfgang von Trips, Olivier Gendebin, Phil Hill, later champion with Ferrari, Piero Drogo, John Sotis, another champion with Ferrari later, Lorenzo Bandini, Roger Penske, Joe Bonnier, Ernesto Brambilla, Jochen Rindt, later champion with Lotus, tragically, Richie Ginter, Chris Amon, John Sotis, which I already had, Guy Ligier, Pedro Rodriguez, and Jackie X. You see practically a who's who of 1960s, 1970s Formula One drivers. With this, we're coming back to the beginning, the Mini Cooper. That's how we started today's episode. As we see the Cooper logo prominently on the Mini, depending where in the world you are. I think, for example, in the US, also on the Mexican markets, they only sell Minis in the Cooper versions, as they don't import the cheaper Mini basic models. So practically all Minis are Coopers here, if I'm correct. The company's fortunes in Formula One declined. However, the John Cooper conceived Mini, introduced in 1961 as a development of the Mini with a more powerful engine, new brakes, and a distinctive livery, continued to dominate in saloon car and rally races through the 1960s, winning many championships, and in 1964, 65, and 67 Monte Carlo rallies, the most famous rally in the annual agenda. Several different Cooper-marked versions of the Mini and various Cooper conversion kits have been and continue to be marketed by various companies. The current BMW, BMW, depends how you want to spell it, German or English, in production since 21 has Cooper and Cooper S models and a number of John Cooper Works, which is, I think, the combi version, tuner packages. As I said, in Europe, they are the faster versions. I think in the US, Mexico, and other markets, they're the only versions on the market. The Cooper name was licensed to BMW for the higher performance versions of the cars, inspired by the original Mini sold as the Mini. John, along with his son Mike Cooper, served in as an advisory role to BMW and Rover's new Mini design. Remember, BMW bought how was the company called? Was it Rover, British Leyland, whatever? So they tried also to continue the Rover cars with the Rover 75, something which unfortunately, from a Rover point, they failed at. But the Mini they could revive, and since then is a very successful car all over the world. So this had been also thanks to Mike Cooper, who worked as an advisory for BMW, how to successfully revive the Mini, reinvent the Mini. John Cooper Works GCV is an English car brand now owned by BMW and used on its Mini vehicles. It was founded in 22 by Michael Cooper, son of John Cooper, the racing car maker and the tuner responsible for the original Mini Cooper. In 2007, BMW acquired the rights to the name and bought out the company in 2008. So what did Mike Cooper with the money received from BMW? He used it and built up his bike company. And this bike, I really mean bike, bicycle, so no engine, but modern, a mixture between urban, classic and modern bicycle design, urban chic, as you may like to call it, ideal if you live in the big cities, as for example London, and so where you live quite near to your office, your grocery shop, and where you have, of course, the adequate bike lines. So you're not risking your life as a bicycle driver, as you, for example, you would do if you live again here in the US or in Mexico, just as examples. Mike and Charlie Cooper founded the Cooper Bikes Company with the aim of building innovative bikes for the urban environment. The first bikes were named after historic victories in the racing history of Cooper Car Company. So even if we have quite different products, I mean, there's a clear line taking on the history, successful history of Cooper Car Company, and including Formula One. The bikes were successful from the start, and the Cooper Car Company was awarded the GQ Best Brand Extension Award. So extensions clearly means here that they have a kind of image transfer from Cooper cars, from racing, from Mini, from Formula One to bicycles. I mean, we are still here in solving a problem from getting from point A to point B. So this is what have bicycles and cars in common, even though of course, it's a quite different product, but you may still argue due to this that we have here an extension, as we all want to solve traffic problems. So offering traffic solutions, which can be a car and a bicycle, and it's not cars against bicycles, but in an ideal world, depending where you want to go, you use public transportation, you use your car, you use a bicycle, and you walk. So again, no sponsoring by Cooper Bikes, but thanks to them as they offered various photos from Formula One. I like to mention Cooper Bikes and also to show you a little bit how the company started, Formula One, and how where they are, even though it's not the same company anymore, but it has the same spirit, the same founder, and they are taking on the legacy. So we see where they started, where they are now. Very successful bikes in the UK and especially in Germany. But I'm sure you can find them also in other places, especially Europe. Okay, that's all I have for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode about Cooper cars. And know when you see the next time Mini Cooper, now you know the story behind. Thanks a lot. Hope to see you soon. Hope you enjoyed. If yes, please give us a like, subscribe. Also, if you have any idea for a topic what you like us to talk about in an episode, please comment this. We are always open for your suggestions and maybe next time be speaking about your topic. See you. Bye bye.